We are live.
The meeting of the Committee of the Whole Plan and Administration is now called to order. I would like to call for a small recess as we deal with an issue in the council chambers. Sections 15.7.2, 15.7.9, and 15.7.11 of the procedure bylaw speak to my role as chair. Section 15.7.2 chair duties. The duties of the chair at a meeting shall include but are not limited to the following: maintaining order and preserving decorum at the meeting. And section 15.7.9, power to expel improper conduct. The chair may expel any person other than a member for improper conduct at a meeting. And section 15.7.11, decorum rules to be obeyed. Persons addressing council or its committees or observing a meeting of council or the committee shall conduct themselves with a decorum and shall obey the rules of the chair in the conduct of the meeting. Any person who is not a member of council who contravenes any provision of this section may be expelled by the meeting of the chair. Can we please have the council doors closed, please? My apologies. I would like to ask you to rise as you are able for the reading of the invocation. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness, where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who served our community and who are no longer with us, so that we can continue to do the work we must in their memory. Thank you. Clerk, has the roll been taken?
Through the chair, roll call has been taken.
Members of the committee, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in items appearing before us in tonight's agenda? Seeing none. Members of the committee, are there any items for consideration or consent you would like to separate for discussion purposes?
Seven point two point 1.1.
Councilor Secoli?
I have 7.1.2, please.
Okay. Councilor Carpenter?
Thank you. 7.1.1 and 7.1.6, I believe. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Hunt, can you please move the motion to approve all items in consideration 7172 not separated and state a seconder?
I certainly can. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Carpenter, that all items for consideration consent 7.1 and 7.2 not separated for discussion purposes be approved.
Okay. Clerk, can you please read the titles of all items that are subject to the vote and then proceed with the vote?
Through the chair, the items subject to the vote are 713 Sanderson Center stage equipment capital purchase, 714 corporate signage policy and procedures, 715 2024-2027 city grant program, and 7212 Brantford Heritage Committee meeting minutes.
Okay, can you take the vote?
The motion carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventelberg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Secoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, there are no statutory public hearings or public meetings on tonight's agenda, but we do have a delegation. Before hearing the delegations, I would like to remind those in the meeting today that the following rules of decorum are set forth in the city's procedure or bylaw that apply. No person shall display or sign a banner or place a place card in the meeting room other than the materials that, in the opinion of the chair, are legitimate audio visual aids necessary in connection with any presentation made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gesture that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only the subject in debate and shall not speak to any other subject. No persons shall applaud participants in debate or engage in conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings of the meeting. I will now ask Barbara Sutherland from the Downtown Brantford BIA to come forward to speak to an item 8.4, review of municipal act for downtown business improvement areas. You will have 10 minutes to present, inclusive of questions.
Good evening, Chair Caputo, Mayor Davis, and all members of council. Thank you for allowing us to do this tonight. We're appearing before you in support of Councillor Samwell's resolution on tonight's agenda regarding the Ontario Business Improvement Areas Association. In essence, that is that the Corporation of the City of Brantford supports a review of the current municipal act as it pertains to Ontario BIAs, including the Downtown Brantford Business Improvement Area. I'm sorry, and I meant to introduce Annette Wozniak, who is our Executive Director. We have already obtained a letter of support from Will Bouma, MPP. The province is looking at this as well, but all of our BIAs have been asked to gain support from our local councils. And that's why we're here tonight. I want to explain a little bit about the Ontario Business Improvement Areas Association. The OBIA, which I will call it, is a network that represents unique and vibrant BIAs across Ontario. The association supports and advocates on behalf of its members through the building and nurturing of strong relationships and partnerships. The OBIAA is a leader in the development and sharing of information, tools, resources, and best practices, and is one voice for our common issues in the BIAs. A business improvement area, just for a little reminder, is a made in Ontario innovation that allows local business people and commercial property owners and tenants to work together through municipal bylaw and Ontario Municipal Act, organize, finance, and carry out physical improvements while promoting economic development in their districts. BIAs are a unique private-public partnership that raises funds by levy upon rateable property in the improvement area, unlike other local boards of council. Business improvement areas in Ontario and Canada have a history that dates back to 1960s. The BIAs were established as a response to the economic challenges faced by many downtown areas in Ontario cities and towns. The concept of BIAs was introduced to revitalize and improve the economic vitality and viability of these areas. The Ontario government recognized the potential of BIAs as a tool for urban revitalization and economic development. And in 1970, the Ontario government passed the Municipal Act, which included provisions for the establishment and operation of BIAs. These provisions gave municipalities the authority to create BIAs and levy special charges on commercial properties within the defined BIA boundaries. The primary purpose of BIAs is to promote and enhance local business districts, making them more attractive and economically viable. Downtown Brantford BIA typically engages in various activities such as beautification projects, marketing and promotion, providing financial sponsorship for city-run events, and advocating for interest of local businesses. BIAs play a crucial role in the revitalization of downtown areas that were struggling due to the factors like suburbanization and changing shopping habits. Excuse me. By pooling resources and working collaboratively, BIAs have been able to address common challenges and bring new life to urban centers and in our downtowns. Over the years, legislation governing BIAs in Ontario has been updated to accommodate changes in the business environment and address evolving needs of commercial districts. Municipalities have the authority to set up and oversee BIAs, and they often work closely with local business owners and stakeholders to establish that the BIAs are aligned with community goals. I must say that we have the privilege of working with the wonderful staff and council of Brantford, and we have a really great relationship with the city and vice versa. Today, BIAs continue to thrive in Ontario with hundreds of them operating across the province. They play a vital role in supporting local businesses, promoting economic development, and enhancing the overall vitality of commercial districts. BIA levies are funded through a special levy on commercial properties within their boundaries. The amount of the levy is determined based on the assessed value of the properties. Property assessments therefore play a critical role in determining how much each business pays to contribute to the BIA's budget. As higher property tax values result in more significant budgets that can be used for various local initiatives, such as street improvements, marketing campaigns, and events to attract shoppers, theater enthusiasts, and those who enjoy dining downtown. And in our downtown, we say we can dine around the world in downtown Brantford. BIAs encourage community engagement and participation in local development projects. Property assessments ensure that businesses within the BIA contribute financially to these efforts, making them invested in the success of their commercial area. A well-managed BIA can enhance the overall desirability and property values in the commercial district. This can have a positive impact on property owners as their investments become more valuable due to the thriving local economy. BIAs funded through property assessments often focus on supporting small locally owned business. This support can be vital for those businesses to compete with larger corporations. Some BIAs also focus on promoting the cultural and historical aspects of their districts. Property assessments help fund initiatives related to the preserving and promoting of the unique character of these areas, which can attract tourists and enrich the local culture. So why does the Ontario Municipal Act and the BIAs and local boards section need to be updated? The OBIAA, we'll call it OBIA, the Ontario BIA Association, presented to the Ontario Planning, Environment, Resources and Land Secretariat, outlining concerns around clarity and the often contradictory nature of the Municipal Act as it pertains to BIAs. OBIA is now requesting the province to revise the BIA legislation within the Municipal Act. We've run into this and over the years and through many cities and councils and change of staff, city clerks are often confused about how to deal with BIAs because the Municipal Act doesn't offer a lot of guidance, and all of a sudden the rules change, and the rules change for us as well. So if they can provide more clarity and more rules, then succession won't be a problem, whether it comes with BIA staff or whether it comes with city staff. The COVID pandemic underlined the need for a review of Municipal Act as our BIAs remained feet on the street in assisting small businesses to navigate the regulations, grants, and loans, changing landscape while creating innovative programs and events such as patio programs and curbside pickup in many communities. Excuse me. BIAs were, for the most part, unable to access grants, which would have helped them financially overcome the hurdles during the pandemic. The inability to access alternative revenue streams was recognized by the provincial government in their 2022 budget. In October of 2021, the province brought the Ontario Nonprofit Act into effect, with many BIAs confusing themselves as nonprofit organizations. This has caused more governance confusion, as BIAs are local boards of council who have members but are not membership-driven organizations under the Municipal Act. You can see how we're all confused. The MPAC assessment cycle is currently in the 2016 assessments, and the province has not yet announced when the assessment cycle will resume. BIAs play a critical role in the promotion of Main Street businesses in their respective communities. As part of the government's ongoing commitment to reduce unnecessary red tape, Ontario will work together with its municipal partners and other stakeholders to explore changes to the Municipal Act and the City of Toronto Act 2006 that could provide the BIA with greater access to grants and funding resources.
Sorry, Barbara, you're just down to a minute, okay?
Thank you. Thank you. This would allow the DBIA to partner with the city and take the lead on many grant applications, which we now have some difficulty doing either as a city or as a BIA. The OBIA team determined a few specific changes in the act, and it was written and retrofitted from a time when municipalities gathered commercial tenancy data, which is no longer the case. The act does not distinguish the BIA local board from other local boards and does not acknowledge or support the fact that BIA local boards raise their own funds through municipal levy and the betterment of the whole community. I'm going to cut this short and just say we would hopefully have your support in this resolution tonight. So our governing, not our governing, but our partnering provincial party could move forward with this and make the municipal act a lot easier and provide a lot more clarity for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Since the time has elapsed, unless somebody wants to make a motion to extend. Councillor Samuel? You have a seconder? Okay. Put a motion together.
The motion to waive the rules carries on a recorded vote of 10-1. Those councillors voting in favor, councillors Vanderburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Slash, Caputo, Sullivan, Segula, and Mayor Davis. Those councillors voting against, councillor Martin.
Okay, so are there any questions from members of committee? Councillor Samuel?
Point of clarification. How long have we extended this presentation?
5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Barbara, first, thank you to yourself and Annette for being here tonight. If we really got down to it, what does this actually mean most to you guys and to the city? Just to summarize it.
Through the chair, for me, it's getting rid of the gray. Right now, if you read the Municipal Act, it's very gray. Every BIA interprets it differently, so it's very difficult to work along with other BIAs. When they read it one way, we read it another way. This way, it's black and white and everybody would understand it.
Perfect, thank you.
Not seeing anything. Thank you, Barbara. We will consider this item shortly.
Thank you.
As there was a delegation on resolution 8.4, review of municipal act for the downtown business improvement area, we'll consider that item prior to moving into other items of consideration. Councillor Simon, can you please state your seconder and read your resolution?
Yep, moved by myself and seconded by Mayor Davis. Review of the Municipal Act for the downtown business improvement areas. Whereas the Municipal Act serves as the primary legislative framework to govern the operations of municipalities and outlined responsibilities, including the management and oversight of local boards such as the Downtown Brantford Business Improvement Area. And whereas the DBBIA works to enhance the downtown, promote local businesses, and improve the overall economy of the community. And whereas the Municipal Act lacks clarity regarding the operations and additional funding mechanisms of downtown business improvement areas. And whereas the funding for the DBBIA is derived from levies and assessments imposed on businesses within the district. And whereas the Board of Management meeting of the DBBIA at its August 8th, 2024 meeting passed a resolution requesting City Council to support a review of the Municipal Act to better address the needs and operations of the business improvement area.
Now therefore it be resolved that the Corporation of the City of Brantford endorses a review of the current municipal act by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing towards an act that provides more clarity and recognizes that business improvement areas are local and community, our local boards of council that raise funds independent of municipal taxes for the betterment of our local business community and the community as a whole, and that the Corporation of the City of Brantford supports a review of the current municipal act as it pertains to the downtown Brantford business improvement area, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and Will Bouma, MPP of Brantford Brant. Thank you. And just to speak to that, I just wanted to say that I really hope that together we can support the work of the OBIA and our downtown BIA as well, and support this tonight. Thank you.
Not seeing anyone else. Can we call the vote?
The vote on item 8.4 carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventelberg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
The committee will now consider the items that were separated for discussion purposes. Councillor Samuel, can you please read the motion to place all separate items on for consideration consent not previously voted on the floor, and state your seconder?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Tilburg that all items for consideration and consent 7.1 and 7.2 separated for discussion purposes be approved.
So 711, Councillor Carpenter, you had that separated?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to staff. Great job on this report. I just want to get some clarity on some things. So we've eliminated the mandatory pre-consultation meetings. So when there's development happening in the ward, in a neighborhood, there's no requirement for pre-consultation as I see it here. And then secondly, those who may be neighboring property owners to the property, they don't have any rights to no longer file an appeal on any planning applications. So what the province has done here with these changes is say, whatever comes forward for development in your neighborhood, it's going to happen. There's it's not required to have pre-consultation, and not required, and there's no way you can appeal it. Is that correct?
Through the chair to the councillor, Nicole Wilmot, Director of Planning and Development Services. That's correct. That's a good summary of some of the changes that have come forward as a result of Bill 185. However, with respect to pre-consultations, you are correct that they are no longer a mandatory requirement. However, what we've heard throughout, our consults, throughout our contacts in the development community is we're not really seeing a decline in pre-consultations. A lot of developers still see the benefit to working with staff very early on in the process to identify sort of the roadmap to the preparation of a development application. But you are correct, it is no longer a mandatory requirement.
Thank you, Nicole. And the new use it or lose it provision is this for just sewer and water allocations only? I know we talked about having zoning applications have an expiry date, but this seems to be an expiry date for development for sewer and water. Am I reading that correctly? 3 years. I think.
Yes. So through the chair to the councillor, really what this is impacting is I think what you're referring to is when we originally brought forward the proposed changes as a result of Bill 185. So before that was ratified, council moved to seek support from the province to include land use approvals with respect to zoning applications. The province did not support that. So really what this boils down to is when servicing allocation is applied, the municipality always had a form of use it or lose it in place with respect to servicing allocation. We've always had a 3-year timeframe on draft plan applications, as well as site plan applications as well. So really, this just boils down to that the municipality can set thresholds for the allocation of servicing with respect to sewer and water, and the municipality is currently doing that.
Thank you, Nicole, and that's formalizing. And another one, I got two left if I can, Mr. Chair. The other one would be the major transit station areas. Do we have any major transit station areas that under this definition in our city?
No, we do not. So major transportation areas generally refer to higher order transit such as subway stations or GO type stations.
And when the province did this for you, they didn't put any of the DC revenue of $42 million that they're taking from us for affordable housing. We still haven't got that back yet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you very much for a very in-depth report. It was very, very well done. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you. I echo Councillor Carpenter's kudos. And through you to staff. So if I understand correctly, the government of Six Nations can file a complaint, but the poor guy living next to the 12-story building cannot? You thought you were going to get a rest there, didn't you, Nicole?
So through the chair to the councillor, so what the province has done is they have specified specified persons with respect to who can file an appeal on an official plan, zoning bylaw, and subdivision application. And that does not include what would often be referred to as third-party appeals, so a general resident or neighbor of the property.
Right. So the pre-consultation process is now voluntary. Is it our intent to continue to charge fees for that?
Yes, it is. The pre-consultation is a process of which that requires a lot of staff time, because what it does is it outlines the requirements of a Planning Act application. So it is of great benefit to the applicant so that they can understand what the constraints are moving forward in the process. So the fact that it is not a mandatory requirement, as I said, people still see a significant benefit from going through pre-consultation, and it still takes up an amount of staff time to hold those pre-consultation meetings and provide relevant and significant comments back to applicants.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor Sakoli.
Yes, I think most of my questions have been asked at this point, but one that hasn't been is the school to post-secondary. Is that just housing specific, those exemptions, or is it anything to do with post-secondary school?
So it's actually the post-secondary school itself. And so at one point in time, there was discussions around blanket exceptions for post-secondary institutions that would also include, high schools and other types of institutions. But through Bill 185, they boiled it down to just post-secondary institutions. So that may have an impact on development in and around the downtown where we do have post-secondary institutions.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is, we've changed bills a few times. So we've had Bill 23, then Bill 97, then Bill, whatever we're on, 185. Has the province ever offered any type of funding to help us absorb the implementation of the administrative part of this? Or do we know of any funding maybe coming our way for that?
Can I start, Nicole, and you can finish? Thanks. To you, Mr. Chair, Brian Hutchings, City CEO. In 2019, if those who remember back 5 years ago, with Premier Ford was first elected, he was looking for line by lines and 5% reductions across administration. And to do that, he provided some incentive monies. In the second round of that, we received monies to look at our development application process, which we had KPMG come in and do a review of, and then even the third round, we had some more monies, another review. So that started the process, and Nicole's team and building and have done an amazing job in implementing that. And Nicole, you're going to finish off the rest of this.
Thank you, Brian. So through the chair to the councillor, CAO Hutchings is absolutely correct. The city was in receipt of approximately $1.7 million to assist the municipality in streamlining our development approvals end-to-end process. We were able to implement, I believe it was 11 projects to help the municipality get ready for the housing and the increase in growth, but also to modernize our system so that we were able to rapidly respond to some of this changing legislation. And then further to that, when we've actually met our municipal targets, the municipality has received funding that can be allocated to infrastructure projects to help the municipality to build the necessary infrastructure to support that growth. So in a large sort of broad sense, yes, the province has provided funding and that funding has been fantastic, but it does take a lot of staff time in order to pivot and understand these changes and implement some of these changes, but it keeps us on our toes.
Well, staff are doing an amazing job and I just want to applaud you because this report was very detailed and thank you. It probably took you hours to do. But throughout all of this, we've had to issue no refunds for not meeting our target deadlines. And that's a huge testament to how hard you guys are working back there. And I know it's not been easy for me to keep up with these changes. I can only imagine how challenging it's been for you guys to pivot every few months. So I am in full support of AMO put out a statement asking the province just to slow their ropes a little bit so we can get a grip of what's going on and just implement some changes. So full support on that. And thank you so much for answering everyone's questions today.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You're doing a great job. Nicole, once again, you and your staff have done a great job on this report and I applaud you for that. Just some clarification, when you were mentioning about the appeal, how just your average neighbor couldn't do it. What if a community came together and got legal representation? Would that be something that would justify an appeal or does that still fall under the no?
Through the chair, that would still fall under the no category.
Okay, I just want the residents to understand how this is working. Thanks.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. Yes, Nicole, it's been very busy tonight, I think. Affordable housing exemptions. They say that they went out of their way to identify purchase and rent thresholds to the various different forms of affordable housing. So they have chosen to define it. And there is an extension of from 20 years to 25 years. But what's not described is what is the definition?
So through the chair to the councillor, they still have not provided a clear definition on affordable housing. So staff anticipate that we may see a defined term come out through legislation through regulations to the act.
All right, but currently they have the exemptions already without the definition. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for that. Honestly, I don't really even know why we're voting on this because I don't think we can actually change anything. But heaven forbid if I could, I would trash this bill in its entirety. What a load of rubbish. It's like we're giving the proponents and the developers everything they've asked for. And yet something the city has asked for and needs is completion. They don't act on these zoning changes that we do. And if you're in the 5th ward, and I'm sure the other wards have seen this, where we have proposals that are 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're not being delayed by city red tape. We're waiting. We're waiting. We have approved so much housing, and we know how many people are waiting for housing. Hear it all the time. There's a reason to do this and do that. Sometimes to do some precarious and possibly radical changes. Yet the one thing that this city needs is for these projects to go forward because the zoning has been changed. So we need that use it or lose it provision. That would be helpful, but that's not there. Instead, what we're getting is where the community, which has a long history of valued input into the development, sometimes success and sometimes not success when they choose to appeal. But that's where we let justice prevail and the rules of law prevail. But what this says is we're taking, right now I already have enough citizens complaining about what we're doing. And they think at least they have a sliver, an avenue of where they can get their input in, or where they can take it to the step above us. And now that's being taken away. this is wrong. So I really don't know what this is procedural to me. I don't even know how I'm gonna vote on this because I want to do what staff is saying to do, but I'm just saying that the concept behind Bill 185 is certainly faster.
Not seeing anything else? Clerk, we take the vote.
Item 711 carries on a recorded vote of 10-1. Those councilors voting in favor. Councilor Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin Salas, Caputo, Solomon, Scully, and Mayor Davis. Councilors voting against. Councilor Ventilborg.
Moving on with separated items, Councilor Secoli, you separated 7.1.2.
Yes, probably the least shocking thing anyone's ever seen. I've asked for item 7.1.2 to be separated because it deals with reviewing designating heritage districts here in town. And I have one question of staff. And that question is, are we continuing the consultation with the neighborhoods, given that we don't really have a tremendous amount of support up until this point? Is this just an update for us?
Through the chair, Patrick Fuser, Intermediate Planner, Long Range Planning. So the report before committee today is the first phase, so the first 3 of 6 neighborhoods. With respect to the 3 neighborhoods discussed in the report, there's no neighborhood level consultation. We may reach out to the individual property owners who said they were interested. We are doing a third phase or second phase, was 3 more neighborhoods that will be September and early October. And that would be a similar report back.
So you reached out to people who were interested and only talked to them?
Through the chair, the neighborhood boundaries were identified through the Heritage Register project, and we consulted the neighborhoods.
Okay,
There
so
was,
you consulted the neighborhood that was identified. Okay, that's what I thought. You confused me there for a second. Okay. So we've consulted 3 of the 6. There doesn't seem to be a tremendous amount of support from the neighborhoods. Would you agree with that? Low turnout to these events?
through the chair, it is accurate to say for a district and for those specific boundaries, neighborhood history, yes, that did not really draw a lot of attention.
Fair. Thank you so much. So we've consulted with half the neighborhoods on the list. We don't see a tremendous amount of individuals showing up, and of those who do show up, we don't see a tremendous amount of support. What we do see is an overwhelming support from the neighborhoods who want to see us as a city do some research on the neighborhoods and the district and provide some sort of commemorative display depicting what the historic piece of those neighborhoods are. And that's something that I really hope that the Heritage Committee does take and run with. And I would love to see something like that in all of these specific neighborhoods. But at this point, you know, staff time being our most valuable resource here at the city of Brantford, I just don't see a lot of value in continuing to allocate staff time to moving forward on something that I'm personally just not going to support, because I don't have everybody on board with wanting to designate an entire district. So at this point, I do have an amendment and seeking a seconder, maybe, Councillor Martin, old reliable. My amendment is that staff be in addition to what's here, that staff be directed to stop all consultations and activities relating to the Heritage Conservation District projects as outlined in staff report 2024-464. And I've already stated why.
Okay, to the amendment, Councilor Samuel.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair. So I want to talk a little bit about the amendment and why I will not be supporting this. Absolutely not. It's a little bit like throwing the baby out with the bathwater before you even get started. These are different neighborhoods. You're taking away their opportunity to be consulted. And you don't know what they might say, just because the first few didn't go quite as well as we had planned. Actually, if you look at the comments from the Heritage Committee, they actually recommend further consultation and education with these neighborhoods. There were a lot of people that came out that were interested in the history of the neighborhood and making sure that that was recognized. And that is something that I would also like to see be done, but staff have already put a lot of time into planning these consultations. They have their boards ready, I'm sure, and all of the things. And I think that it's the wrong approach to be pulling that back now after we've already approved that work. And just not even giving them the opportunity to consult with those other different locations and neighborhoods. So we don't know what the answer to that's going to be. So I definitely won't be supporting this amendment today, but I'm sure everybody already knew that.
Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you. And I would ask that you rule on whether or not this is even in order. By way of resolution, direction was given by council to staff to pursue this course of action. The course of action is not yet complete because only 50% of the work has been completed. So I would think if a member of this council wishes to abrogate that process, it would be more fitting to put to move a motion to reconsider the original resolution, which would then put it back on the floor to be defeated, or as I prefer to think of, as having been supported a second time. So I would suggest that the chair rule on whether or not this is in order, because I don't believe it is.
The chair will rule that the amendment is in order and we'll vote on the amendment before we vote on
And I
the.
will speak further to the amendment and use up as much time as I possibly can to advocate for the course of action that Councillor Samwell has pursued. And I give kudos to her and Councillor Sullivan for the hard work they do on the Heritage Committee, which goes largely unrecognized at this table. And that's a darn shame, because there was a day when we supported heritage in this committee and in this community. And that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. There seems to be some sort of underlying theme here to pour cold water on it, to use Councillor Samwell's water analogy to its fullest. I will not be supporting this amendment. I want to see the other three neighborhoods engaged. And I'm pretty sure Councillor Samwell has some additional ideas on how we can do better and bigger consultation with some of these folks to make sure that we have reached the epitome of our achievement with respect to communicating and receiving comment back.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
I won't be supporting the amendment. I think what gets lost in a lot of the translation is the information that's gathered from these public meetings. And leading into the public meetings, you actually have a lot of discussion with homeowners who can't attend the meetings. And you will have a discussion with a homeowner that may be for or they may be against. But one thing that they want to do is learn, and they want to get the information, and they want to be comfortable in the decisions that they've made. And the bottom line is that you never, ever get everybody, nor do you ever get close to everybody. When I hear the low numbers, I would say that some other events, we would say that's a fantastic turnout when you have 17 properties attending in a neighborhood. If we get 60 people out for the official plan of a city of 100,000, we go, oh, that was awesome. So, I mean, we've got to take things in the scope of what they are. So I had a lot of discussions with the residents and their opinions, and it's an interesting one at that, because it's like, we don't want anybody to change our neighborhood. We love the way it is. But they don't understand what the heritage wants to do, and there's always a level of fear. Those were my conversations with them. But one thing they sure did, particularly in the wartime houses, oh, we got to keep it this way. I don't want to be affected by, I don't want to have something come in that's not like what our area is like. So, I mean, sometimes they just don't understand, but certainly we do when we have those conversations. I believe that you will learn, in fact, I will learn new stuff from the other neighborhoods as it goes forward. And maybe it won't be that heritage designation or heritage zone that we pitch out there, that they have the opportunity to say yay or nay to. But there may be something else that comes from it that makes them enjoy and be proud of their neighborhood. And I don't like taking away any kind of consultation or community engagement. I think especially if you heard my last rant, about Bill 185. I revel in community engagement. That's where I think most community work comes from, is hearing from those who put us up here. They, you know, so I don't believe in taking it away, so I won't be supporting the amendment.
Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's always a saying on council that there's no harm in asking for information, but there is, because it's staff time. And it's something that we need to keep in mind, is that our staff are busy. They have a lot of work to do, and by giving them an exercise where they're essentially chasing their tail and accomplishing nothing, waste their time when they could be doing something productive for the city. And that's why I had a similar amendment that Councilor Secoli beat me to. And that's why I was happy to second it, because I kind of guessed where she was going. And there really isn't that much of an interest in heritage designating neighborhoods. If there is, then that should come from the neighborhood. And the people that are talking to the neighborhoods to promote this should be the Heritage Committee, not our city staff. That's something that the Heritage Committee needs to get out and knock on the doors and promote this and explain to people what it really means. But that's not a job I see for staff. Staff have more important work to do. And I will definitely be supporting this amendment, because I value staff time, and I think that they're better off doing other things than chasing their tail.
Okay, not seeing anyone. I'm gonna chime in on this myself. I am gonna support the amendment. I'm in total agreement about staff time. In the 2 years of being on council, I've put a lot of questions and a lot of expectations on staff to help me along with various situations. And I do know what they are stressed with. And I don't believe that this is something that they should be stressing over when we have more important things to be able to do. I think the Heritage Committee does a fantastic job as it is. And I think they can identify and keep moving forward with what they're doing without having it being taken upon doing it to neighborhoods. Now, with that being said, we certainly have neighborhood associations and probably several within certain areas that would be able to bring this forward at their meetings if that was the case, if they wanted to bring something along and then have what that can be city staff supported, but not where we would do this. And again, I'm still in the camp that I cannot tell an owner of a home what they should or what they can or they cannot do to it. So I won't be supporting. It's ironic we have another heritage thing coming up later in the calendar, but that's it. So, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to throw out there that I'm not sure why we're focusing on staff time, as we actually have a heritage staff that actually does the work. If we're not to have them do the work, then they're not going to have a job to do. So let's keep that in mind too.
Councillor Secoli.
Yeah, just as we wrap this up, you know, what I'm hearing here is we're going to be using our staff resources, which time is money, folks. This is still taxpayer money that we're working with here. We're going to be holding meetings in different ways and asking questions in a different way until we get the answer that we want, is kind of the feeling that I'm getting from this. I will never support telling a homeowner to do with the largest investment that they will ever, financial investment that they will likely ever make in their life, and that is with their home. I will never support us doing that against the will of the owner. I love the work that the Heritage Committee is doing. I would love to see a focus on creating incentivizing individuals to want to designate their home, because I do think that's incredibly important. I just don't see the benefit to us using our staff resources in this way at this point, when it's been so clearly indicated that it's not supported on a large scale. So thank you for everyone's support tonight.
Councillor McCreary.
Mr. Chair, I see a first-time speaker over there ahead of me in the queue.
Mayor Davis.
Mr. Chair, a question for staff. One of the neighborhoods is the Dominion neighborhood. And through the chair, I don't think I saw in the report any information with respect to that neighborhood? Is that consultation yet to come?
Through the chair, that is correct. That's part of phase two.
All right. Would you interpret this amendment to mean that would not then occur?
So through the chair, my understanding of the text of the amendment is it speaks to this report number. So I would need some clarity if it's all districts or just the 3 identified in this report.
I'd appreciate the clarity, Mr. Chair, because I think we've got enough information from the neighborhoods that have been consulted that there doesn't seem to be the kind of interest that you need to be able to impose a heritage district designation on a neighborhood. But Dominion is very unique, and I suspect there may be some support in the neighborhood. So I wouldn't want to see it, the whole process come to an end without all of the neighborhoods being consulted. But if I can have some clarity on that.
Well, would you be prepared to make an amendment on that amendment, leaving that one open?
Well, I'm asking the chair, but what's the interpretation? What does it mean?
That the amendment is to axe the program. All
Entirely.
6.
Yeah. Okay, well then I can't support that.
Second time speakers, Councillor McCreary.
Sure, thank you very much. Don't sit down, Patrick. You get back up there, mister. Chair, through you to staff. It was mentioned that the work could be undertaken by, I'm sorry. No, that's better. Thank you. I understand that some folks think the work could be undertaken by the Heritage Committee. Patrick, would they require your support to do work on this, the 3 remaining inquiries?
Through the chair, I think they would.
So do you think we could have it both ways, that they could operate completely independently without staffs? Don't answer this. It's intended for the folks across the way there. I think that this is sort of like a rat in a round room looking for a corner to hide in, suggesting that the committee can do it without staff support. I think it's complete. As I said before, I don't agree with the chair's ruling, but I wouldn't challenge it because I respect him. But I don't believe this actually is in order. It's completely contrary to the original resolution. It's a mixed bag. 3 of these and 3 of these makes no sense whatsoever. The amendment, despite the good intentions of the mover and the seconder both. So I hope folks will not support this. I think the idea of looking at an alternative methods of engagement is probably a good one. And I see Councillor Samwell's getting in the queue to speak again. And perhaps she might have given some thought to this as well.
Councillor Samwell.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Chair. So in regards to the idea of asking the question in multiple ways until we get the answer that we want, we're asking different neighborhoods at this point. And so I think that it's important to keep that in mind and make sure that we are consulting with those. Mayor Davis actually brought one of them up, and it would be taking away their opportunity to get the opportunity to be consulted. And I think that we never know what we're going to hear when we go out to talk to the community, but it's important that we listen and that we go and talk to them. And continuing through with this project is doing exactly that. And then at the end of it, we can come to a point where we decide, that if they don't want designation, that's fine. If they want to know about their history, that's fine. But at least then we've asked them and we've heard from them. And yeah, I think there's a lot of different opportunities to look at consulting in a different way, but that's something that I would like to discuss further with the Heritage Committee as well. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to staff, it's been suggested that without this project, staff wouldn't have anything to do because heritage is all you do. Is that correct?
Through the chair, no, there are other things to do, but the bulk of my role particularly is the heritage portfolio.
And there's other heritage work that you're doing other than this project?
Through the chair, correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
I don't have a horse in this race. And so I find it wrong that someone might say we're asking a question until we get the answer we want. I asked the question and I got the answer they want. There's a huge difference. So I do know what would happen if I didn't ask the question. If all those little wartime houses with big lots, all of a sudden started dominoing down and they started saying, why is this happening here? Like it's been happening in other neighborhoods. We didn't think it would happen here. And it finally come to them. They would want my head because I would have had a way to give them an option on how to prevent such a thing from happening and to keep their quaint neighborhood the way it is. They've had that opportunity. I would say they've made their choice. I would say that the turnout is not enough to designate it based on the number of homes. I would not say that those that didn't participate were saying no. I would say that they didn't participate. Those that said no said no. Those that said yes. Participation for me would have been needed to be significantly larger. But a lot of people learn from this. And again, I know that in clear conscience, in another term perhaps, or at the end of this term, or who knows when something that goes on in that neighborhood, I could say, well, we tried this. And you as a neighborhood said, and this would have stopped it, that you as a neighborhood said, no, we like things to be left alone as they are, and we'll take our chances. And that's fine. That's the answer I asked for. And that's the answer I got. But that's the question I asked. And that was the answer that was responded. If they had said, no, we want to absolutely go for the heritage zone. This is wonderful. We want to protect all these little wartime houses. So be it. I also wanted to know while I'm here, there's an area of town, this is really off base. There's an area of town called Smurfville. I don't know if you've heard about it or not, but those are the blue homes. And I was wondering if that's actually a heritage area because it's very, very well known in the community. Everyone talks about the blue homes, they call it Smurfville. Are you familiar with Smurfville?
Through the chair, I think I've heard the name, but I don't know where it is. And it's not one of our 2 heritage conservation districts.
Just in case. Thank you.
All right, finally, since sorry, Mr. Clerk, can you please take the vote on the amendment?
The vote on the amendment is lost on a recorded vote of 3-8. Those councillors voting in favor, councillors Martin, Caputo, Sicoli, those councillors voting against, councillors Ventilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Sless, Sullivan, and Mayor Davis.
Now will, clerk, can we take the vote on the original motion as stated?
The vote on the original motion of item 712 carries on a recorded vote of 10-1. Those councillors voting in favor, councillors Ventilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Celeste, Sullivan, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis. Councillors voting against, councillor Caputo.
So moving on with separated, motion 716, Councillor Carpenter, you asked that to be separated?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Nicole, another nice, very long, hardworking report. Thank you for the work on this. In the report, you talk about if so, directed staff can launch a fulsome research program addressing rental housing stock protection and report back. But item C, does that not talk about researching rental protection options? What's the difference between those two?
Through the chair, my name is Tara Tran. I'm a senior planner for long range planning, and I prepared this report.
Oh, thank you, Tara.
The intention here was to just provide some preliminary information to advise council that there's other approaches to address the motion, but future and more detailed research is recommended.
Okay, thank you. So currently, is the city not in receipt of an application to convert rental housing to condominium currently?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Now, when you talk about the condo model in the report, Tara, and you did a very good job, Tara, there's a lot of work here, thank you. My concern is that the conversion of the condo, you talk about having a look at the site assessment, but that's very different from a condominium application where a condominium must have a listing of long-term planning for repairing condos. That's different. So how can we make sure that, here's my concern. My concern is that we get someone that converts rental housing into condos. They advertise the condo at, it's very low condo fees. And then the condo legislation requires that a reserve fund study be done within 3 years of a condo conversion happening. So the tenants, whoever the purchasers are really, they're kind of stung 3 years later that they find out they got millions of dollars they need to put in a reserve fund and they have a certain amount of time to get there. How can we address that issue?
Through the chair, I hear what you're saying and appreciate that. Just noting that what we typically already ask for is a building condition assessment, which allows council, which asks the applicant to outline what the state of the building is at that time. There is some options that other municipalities employ where they can have a condition that ensures the occupancy continues to meet building code and safe and healthy building environment for future occupancy. The struggle is there isn't, I think more research is needed on how council might evaluate that building condition report. In all cases, would council suggest the answer is no to the application for conversion if the building condition appears poor? I think more research is needed on what are options there to apply some sort of condition on the quality of the building at the time of the application.
Well, but that doesn't do anything to prevent the owner, it may be in good condition today, but when they do a reserve fund study, it may show them, for example, the balconies in 2 or 3 years from now are going to need millions of dollars worth of renovations, and then the condo owners are stuck with that. So I'm just trying to, when you're going to come back with some options. So are you able to come back with some options for us to be able to protect that so that the owners, because I know the mayor and I both been involved with a condo corporation in the city of Brantford that was converted, and now they're $40,000 for assessment on each unit because they're underwater because of the condo requires a reserve fund study after the fact.
Right. Okay. I'll defer to Nicole Wilmot to answer.
Okay.
So through the chair to the counselor, it's a really great question, and I understand where you're coming from. And I think one of the challenges that we recognize is at the time that the application is made with not all of the technical details with respect to the financial state of the infrastructure on site, particularly when we are dealing with a condo conversion. So with respect to that type of situation, we would look to draft as part of the condo condition that they prepare a life cycle report that would give us an understanding upon registration of that condominium, so that it's very upfront at the registration time what the life cycle of that infrastructure is at the time of registration. So if we're looking at 20 years of asphalt or whatever the case may be, it's very upfront at the time of registration.
So that'd be very much like a reserve fund study then for the building, its conditions going forward?
So a reserve fund study is a requirement of an application. But I think what you're getting at is that at the time that the condo is actually created, the purchasers of the condo have a clear understanding of the life cycle of the infrastructure that is there to support that condominium. And we address that through a condition of the condo application.
Okay, so they would know exactly how much money is going to be needed and what their condo fees are actually going to be going forward for the next so many years.
That's correct. And I would say that those requirements are already in place for when we assess applications for condominiums. Now, granted, we don't have a history of very many conversion applications. So that will be something that we will be look at carrying forward in the future. However, but I think what Ms. Tran is getting at is that this report is dealing with the general concept of supporting or not supporting the principle of converting what is generally rental stock into condominium tenure. And what needs to be understood is what the impact of that conversion will be on the rental stock at the time that the application is made. So that is part of the technical background that staff need to undertake so that we can put forward strong official plan policy that is actually supported by a technical review.
Thank you, Nicole, and thank you, Tara, for the work you did here.
5 minutes are up. Would you like to go in the queue?
No, I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, and through you to staff. Nicole, I'm wondering if you can give us the percentage of developments that are coming through the planning department that are rental versus condominium. I can only speak for Ward 4, but what I can say we're certainly seeing is that most new development are going to be condos and not rentals.
Through the chair, that is a fair statement that most new construction is coming in as condominium ownership versus purpose-built rental.
Okay, and I just wanted to kind of speak to the fact that, and I gave this stat. So I attended the affordable housing session at AMO. 33% of our population are tenants. So that's a third of the population lives in rental housing. And one of the statements that were made is that municipalities need to do a better job of protecting our rental stock, because as we can see, new development is not building rental stock. So allowing a condo conversion such as what we've got before us, where someone's coming forward with what is right now rental stock and then converting that to condominiums, that erodes the amount of rental stock that we have. And so I'm just wondering what we have to do as a municipality to protect the rental stock that we have, and if it's in this long range planning document, or how do we do our best to protect the rental stock that we do have in the community? Because as that stock erodes, it's not being backfilled by new development.
So through the chair to the counselor, that is part of what staff are recommending coming back with. So initially, this notice of motion was essentially directed at planning staff to look at opportunities for strengthening our official plan policy. And what we've determined is that while we can do that, it's probably not the most effective tool in order to do exactly what you're referring to, which is preserving rental stock. Generally speaking, the Planning Act and Planning Act applications are evaluated based on proposed development and impacts on, servicing and so on and so forth. Tenure isn't really a discussion point or a review point as part of those applications. So what we've identified in working collaboratively with our housing staff, as well as potentially with bylaw and so on, is that there are other tools that staff want to investigate and bring back those key recommendations to this council that may be more effective tools. And those could be rental replacement bylaws and licensing type programs and so on and so forth. Having those combined with some strengthened official plan policy, I think will help to alleviate this concern. But what we are identifying now, at least, is that the official plan policy is not the only way to go. I think there's more work to be done that's probably cross-departmental and cross-commissioned.
So thank you for that, Nicole. And I would just encourage council to give thought to the fact that protecting our rental stock is is something that we as a council need to do the best that we can for 33% of our population that is currently living in rental units.
Counselor Secoli?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. For the sake of staff moving forward, I would really like us, when we're reviewing options, to stay away from options that hinge on any type of CMHC stats. I find them to be pretty skewed in the grand scheme of things, and of course, they're Canada-wide and not totally applicable here in Brantford. So I just am bringing that up because I noted that it was reflected upon in this review that we look at basing these the rental vacancy rate as according to CMHC. So I'd like to see some options that don't hinge on that. And for the sake of the public, I don't want you to think that, you know, we have some looming major issue in our community with condos. The fact is, we've only converted 8 condominiums or rental units into condominiums since 1995, but we do have a trend of, you know, we have a lot of condos coming up and down the pipeline. So I want to make sure that we're best prepared for that. So thank you so much for this report. And I just wanted noted to stay away as much as we can from CMHC stats. Thanks.
Not seeing any further questions. Mr. Clerk, can we call the vote?
Item 716 carries on a recorded vote of 10-1. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors Ventilborg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Scully, Mayor Davis. Councillors voting against: Councillor Sullivan.
Okay, last but not least, Councillor Sullivan, you separated the minutes, 7.2.1.1.
It's just to have it voted separately.
Can you call the vote?
The motion for the approval of the minutes carries on a recorded vote of 8-3. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillor Samuel, Hunt, McCurry, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Scully, and Mayor Davis. Those councillors voting against: Councillor Ventilborg, Carpenter, and Sullivan.
We will move on to resolutions. Since resolution 8.4 has already been dealt with due to delegation, we'll now proceed to item 8.1. Councillor McCreary, can you please state your seconder and read your resolution?
I sure can, Mr. Chair. My seconder is Councillor Samwell. And this is a resolution concerning the designation of 40 Richmond Street, the former Victoria School, under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. Whereas the construction of 40 Richmond Street, the former Victoria School, was completed in the year 1898, and whereas 40 Richmond Street is listed on the City of Brantford's Heritage Register to recognize its cultural heritage value to the community, and whereas 40 Richmond Street is a landmark within the surrounding neighborhood, and whereas ownership of 40 Richmond has passed through a number of parties since being divested by the Grand Erie District School Board after more than 100 years of use as a public school, and whereas the current owner has, during their delegation to combined Committee of the Whole Operations and Planning and Admin on January 16, 2024, respecting their plans for another property within the neighborhood, indicated that their intent was to develop 40 Richmond Street in a way that adaptively reuses the former Victoria School. And whereas the current owner has held a neighborhood meeting on April 3, 2024, to share with neighborhood residents that they intend to redevelop 40 Richmond in a way that retains the former Victoria School and convert said building into housing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Brantford Heritage Committee be consulted regarding the designation of 40 Richmond Street, and B, that staff report back to council by the end of the fourth quarter of 2024 with respect to the designation of 40 Richmond Street under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. And I shall attempt I shall do my very best to preempt what I suspect will happen in the speaking opportunities expressed by some members of this committee. First of all, let me point out that the operative clause here, Part B, is that staff create a report by the end of this year with respect to the designation of 40 Richmond Street under Part 4 of the Heritage Act. We will not be designating that building in 2024. We shall receive a report that will speak to the process required to take that action. Plain and simple. I had personal discussion with the gentlemen who are the proponents on this site, and they indicated a willingness to do what's before us tonight, and that is why it is here before us tonight, because they said, absolutely, we certainly will be doing that, because we will be reusing that building in the form that it's in. Now, you know, there may be 100 reasons why one might want to poke holes in this. I can say to you that what the heritage designation would include would be the bricks and mortar of the exterior, the three sides. The windows, to my understanding, were not restored, but replaced with modern windows at some point, probably when it was in the ownership of GEDSB. So that would not be part of the heritage designation. They would be permitted to do whatever the heck else they want to do on the site, which looks, by all intents and purposes, to be a pretty darn good development. So I would point out to committee that there's absolutely no reason to object to this tonight. The owner is happy to do it. The timing suits the owner. We had a report today speaking to deferral of this. Well, there's no need to defer it because we'll be getting the report by the end of this year, and the report will speak to the timeframes involved. It's not an instantaneous thing, and there's plenty of time to comply with what the owner's representative suggested, which is to delay it to a timeframe that suits them better. This will require a bylaw at some point in time, and when we get that report back at the end of this year, we can speak to the timing with which we wish to proceed on this. And at that point in time, we will take the owner's desires into account with respect to their timing that they would appreciate us proceeding on. So there's absolutely no reason to be in opposition to this tonight. The owner likes it, the timing suits them. And I would appreciate it if those folks here who have a natural or rather unnatural predisposition to be unsupportive of heritage to perhaps change their ways on this one. Thank you.
Councillor Samwell?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I just wanted to say that I was pleased to see Councillor McCurry bring this forward, and I'm happy to be the seconder of it. But most of all, I'm happy to hear that the owners of this property are interested in moving in this direction. So I really want to commend them for taking a look at respecting the heritage of that building and keeping some of our history. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
Councillor Hunt?
Thank you. And through you to staff, this resolution does not delay the development in any way.
Through the chair to the councillor, there's no application in before the city at this time under the Planning Act. The only consultation that has happened has been of the owner's volition. So designation would not hold it up.
Okay, and for those of us that are not intimately familiar with the Ontario Heritage Act, could I just ask that the report that comes back to us in the fourth quarter of this year clearly outlines what Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act is?
Through the chair to the councillor, it will do that. It will have that details.
Thank you.
Councillor Sloss?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I have some concerns, and the reason I have them is what I'm hearing tonight is different than what you and I were told by the developer when we met just a few days ago. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Has this resolution changed in the last few days?
Is that directed to myself, Councillor Sloss?
or to the clerk?
I can speak to it. What we had the discussion on is, outside this, review. The resolution states that it's only going to be given to staff to give a consultation. So, but I will be speaking to it later, so you're more than welcome to bring your comments forward right now.
Okay, I'll save mine till I've heard yours then, Mr. Counselor Caputo.
Okay, Counselor Scully?
I know we have some counselors eagerly awaiting my remarks. I just don't see, I don't even know where to begin with this. I find it hard to believe that a developer is eager to create more red tape for themselves voluntarily while going through this process. I've personally been in this building. I had a showing there and it's rough. It was quite rough. It had fallen into a state of, it was in a desolate state and it was a little bit rough. So I applaud, I love these conversion projects. I full support for it, but I really find it hard to believe that the developer here is eager to create hurdles to jump over and is excited to do that. And I would probably perhaps feel a little bit better about this had I heard this firsthand from the developer. I have a hard time believing that a developer would want to prolong the start of a project like this by sitting on a vacant property and racking up a bill for an additional 6 months. So until I hear from the owner of this property that they want this to be designated prior to going through their process of converting this into what seems to be a lovely project, I'm not going to be supporting it. Just staying on brand, that I just do not support designating any property in the town of Brantford, in the city of Brantford, without outside of the wishes of the owner of that property.
Mayor Davis?
Well, I'm going to bring some common sense to this resolution. And certainly in the past, I have taken the position that whenever you're going to be designating a property, designate a property against the wishes of an owner is usually self-defeating. And the better way to do it is through consultation, encouragement. And we do now have a grant program that makes it potentially financially beneficial to have your property designated, which I think is the proper way to go about designating properties. The core of it, though, of that approach is consulting with the property owner. And so I find it shocking that this resolution says the Brantford Heritage Committee is to be consulted, which makes sense, but nothing about consulting with the owners of the property. And we have a letter now that came in this afternoon from the owners of the property that in fact are asking for that. And they indicate that they are in the process of preparing a cultural heritage impact assessment, which should be ready to be given to staff or provided to staff by the end of September 2024. So I'm going to propose an amendment that A be amended of this resolution by adding the 40 Richmond GP Ltd. So it would read that the Brantford Heritage Committee and the owner 40 Richmond GP Ltd. Be consulted regarding the designation of 40 Richmond Street, and then the staff report back the end of Q4. I don't think if we do that, I don't believe that's going to unduly delay their development proposal. And in fact, may result in a discussion where because there are options besides simply designating a property, which can be very restrictive to what you can do to the building. But in fact, there may be a middle ground where the building remains. It's renovated in such a way that makes it a useful residential building, but still captures and preserves what is historically unique about the building. You can only do that if you're consulting with the owner. I think it's an amendment that makes a lot of common sense.
The mover and seconder consider that to be friendly to the main motion.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment?
I think it's friendly, so it's in.
Put it through a vote.
Councilor Schlesinger.
Okay.
But we don't need to put it to a vote unless someone wants it, insists that it go that way.
So Councillor Sless, I will come back to you, but I'm going to speak to it first. Originally, I was going to put a deferral into this based on the fact that what I was told by the developer is a contradiction to a little of this. The developer does not have an issue with the building being declared heritage, but they wanted it deferred until the construction was complete. I've seen the prints to this. I've seen it several occasions. And I think what is being proposed is an absolutely fantastic proposition, not only for the neighborhood, for the city. We need to make sure that we are always doing what the owners of properties are asking for. So to have them actually not be against the designation, I don't think the time for the designation is today. So I was going to put an amendment in until I realized, when I read this thing again, and I realized that this is just asking staff to consult with the Heritage Committee. So nothing is being decided tonight. But at the same time, I wanted to be able to voice that forward so that everyone was aware of what the developer's real plans are here. And this wasn't it. Councillor Sloss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing because I'm hearing two different stories and they're not the same. If I could speak to staff through you, Mr. Chair, is having the report and starting, I guess, informally the process of designation. And I think if I'm reading it correctly, is it part 4? Which is a very strong designation. Does that impede them moving forward with construction, or are they going to be subjected to a number of studies because this is a potential heritage building? I think that was part of the concern that they had, that they could get hamstrung in the middle of construction because of a process that the city is attempting to initiate. Could staff comment on that, please?
So through the chair to the councillor, heritage designation would not impede the construction process. It would all be handled prior to the building permit issuance, or it could be done after building permits close. But any heritage processes could all work through the normal Planning Act processes. There's site plan control, other processes they will have to go through. Heritage can be concurrent with all of that if the council chose to designate the property.
Okay, so what we're voting on tonight, that we're showing intent to designate. We're asking for the report on how we go about doing this. Does that put restrictions and does that put further conditions on them proceeding with their project? In other words, is that going to further complicate things, that they need other studies and they need other things done prior to being able to start construction or get permits?
So through the chair, the resolution before committee of the whole tonight will simply result in staff preparing a report back for further consideration. This resolution will not add anything to the redevelopment process. If council chooses to designate the property, the only change will be that there will be a heritage permit process to follow. That can be done concurrently with the conditions of site plan approval. There are other issues around this development, like the proximity of the CN rail yard. Heritage will not be a make it or break it deal for this particular area of the city.
Okay. It might not be for the city, but it certainly could be for the developer. I'm going to stick with what I suggested to the developer that I would do, and that is, I'll certainly advocate that they're quite prepared to have this property designated, as Councillor Caputo said, once construction of that project is completed. And bearing in mind, the units going into the to 40 Richmond are rentals. That's not a condo. These are rental units that they're putting in there. And it's something that we need desperately. So They understand that, they know the market, and they're attempting to get this done as quickly as they can. And I don't want to put any impediment in front of them that could slow this project down. So from my perspective, everything that we're doing tonight should be deferred until this project has been completed. And then they're more than happy to have the property designated. But until that time is arrived at, I'm not going to support any designation or any, I guess, any actions that lead towards designation until such time as the project has been completed. And the folks doing the construction said that they're more than happy to have designation once that construction is completed. So I'll be voting against the resolution, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Sakoli?
Yes, despite the friendly amendment, I'm still not going to be supporting this. I think the developers, should they wish to designate this building heritage, that it's their prerogative to reach out and go through the proper avenues to seek that designation. I don't think we as a council should be telling people what to do with their properties. So I think there's a lot of half-truths that are being shared here this evening. I don't think that it's a complete accurate representation of the wishes of the developer. And the fact is that if they wish to move through the designation process, it's there for them to do so, and I would be fully supportive of that. And I look forward to seeing how everyone votes on this tonight.
Mayor Davis?
Chair, actually, I'd like to call a point of privilege. The councillor from the first ward has accused me of speaking in half truths, and there's been a theme running through here tonight.
I didn't accuse you, but if the shoe fits.
That's a point of order.
I would ask that the member be sanctioned for that and asked to apologize.
Will you please apologize to Councillor Ward?
If you felt that that was directed at you, then. I
Councillor
apologize.
Sakoli, I've voted in that. Can you please apologize? The
If-
comment was half
If
truth.
Counselor McCreary feels that that was directed at him, then I'm sorry.
Not sufficient. Sorry.
We will carry on. Mayor Davis?
Yeah. So I understand the points are being made. It's kind of like an ideological discussion. Yeah, I've made it very clear that I'm opposed to designations that are against the wishes of an owner. But I'm hearing that this is an owner that may very well agree to a designation at the appropriate time. And the Heritage Committee may well be pleased with what they intend to do with this property. So I'm going to make another amendment that I think might hopefully make it more amenable to everyone. And also the timeline to Q4, that's like 3 months. This isn't going to slow down their development process. They haven't even filed an application. They're in that pre-approval consultation phase. So my amendment is where it says the paragraph A be consulted regarding where it says the designation. My amendment is to be consulted regarding a possible designation of 40 Richmond Street.
Does
So
the
it doesn't
mover find that
prejudge
still
anything.
friendly?
Seeking a seconder for that. Yeah, so that to replace the word with the words a possible. So it would read be consulted regarding a possible designation, 40 Richmond Street. Looks like that's friendly.
Do you have a seconder, sir?
It's friendly, I think.
Oh. Not seeing any further questions? Can't, oh, Councillor McCreary.
So let me say that I'm not very pleased with the allusions to my honesty that were expressed here tonight. Not just by the councillor who gave a half-hearted apology, but by others who alluded to that. Did something change in the resolution in the last few days? No, it did not. What changed was what came out of the developer's mouth between my meeting with them and their agents on August the 12th and what's happened tonight. And I won't make any sort of accusations, but my guess would be that somebody had a word with them in the interim and they've now changed their minds, and that's fine. that's fine. You know, we do everything above board, at least I do. So I'm happy that the mayor has supported this tonight. Well, I shouldn't prejudice that by counting his vote in the bag already, even though he has made those lovely amendments, which will make this more palatable to everybody. So yeah, we'll talk to the owner and we can maybe ask them what happened, what changed their minds between August the 12th and today. And perhaps that might be illuminating as well, because sure as heck, the resolution didn't change in the last few days.
Councillor Carpenter.
I'll try not to belabor this any further, but just speaking to it very clearly, I did a little bit of deja vu here because I remember many years ago, I brought forward a resolution when this was still owned by the school board and vacant to designate it at that time. It was because it was a school board, not owned by a private individual. And I couldn't get support amongst council to do that. And so it did not happen. But just speaking to the idea about owners of properties, I get the idea about not designating a property against an owner's wishes. I understand that. But we as council make designations and decisions about private property all the time. The zoning bylaw, the official plan, committee of adjustments. We're always making decisions about what you can have. That's why we don't have a gas station next to a school, because we've got proper zoning to make sure that doesn't happen. But we make decisions on property owners all the time, just to be clear about that. So whether it's a heritage designation, that's another matter, but we do make those decisions from time to time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Sluss.
Is the amendment on the floor, Mr. Chair?
It is.
Okay, for the possible, okay, sorry, because I have an amendment once that's
It's a
done.
friendly, it's just a verbiage of A.
So
That the
so there's no
Metro
amendment on the floor then?
And the owner be consulted regarding the possible designation of 40 Richmond Street.
So there is no amendment on the floor then? That was friendly?
Yeah.
Okay, then I have an amendment I'd like to move, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Is it okay to move it?
Yes. Do you
Okay,
have a
seeking a
seconder?
seconder. I don't have a seconder, but I'll read the amendment and see if somebody will second it. I'm moving that this item be deferred until the project at 40 Richmond Street be completed. Seeking a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Sakoli.
I'd like to speak before the deferral. I haven't had an opportunity to speak.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
I believe the last amendment we had was the mayor's, which added more detail. Now, I'm only going by what I've heard tonight. And if I've heard correctly, and I'm not saying that I have, I'm trying to hear correctly. But I will use my gut instinct on this, that I don't recall the mayor ever rushing out to designate a heritage building at any time. I just don't recall that as in his interests. And hearing that, I believe he's put forward something with correspondence from the developer. I believe that's in goodwill, because when one accuses half truths, everybody gets tainted. And I don't like that. So we say what we say and we try to figure it out on where we're at. I'm comfortable with the amendment that the mayor has brought forward. I would even be comfortable with a deferral that is a month or 2 months long, something that can get us in fact, even to the next council meeting, that would receive some correspondence directly from the developer, as opposed to saying, let's do something and we're going to wait until after it's done. Maybe we might miss something in the process. I don't know. I'm not a heritage person. So with that, that's just what I want to say, and I'll let Councillor Sluss come forward with his deferral.
So the deferral is now on the floor. Councillor Sakoli. Okay. So has the deferral been put on? Mr. Clerk, can you just get clarity on that?
Through the chair, if Councillor Celeste can please confirm that the deferral is until the construction is completed, that would be appreciated.
Mr. Clerk.
We are now going to vote on the deferral.
The deferral, the motion on the deferral is lost on a tie. Those councillors voting in favor, Councillor Hunt and Carpenter, Caputo, Sicoli, those councillors voting against, Mayor Davis, Sullivan, McCurry, Samuel, Ventelberg, and noting Councillor Martin was out of the room at the time of the vote.
Councillor Van Tilburg for a second time.
I'd like a deferral for a time of one cycle. And that would give us enough time to hear correspondence from the developer and make a judgment based on their input. Seeking a seconder.
We have another deferral on for seeking a one cycle. So can we take the vote, please?
I wanted to speak as to time and place. Do I get to speak as to time and place? Yeah.
Mayor Davis?
Yeah, that I would suggest that in terms of timing, that the resolution essence, in essence, is a deferral of 2 or 3 cycles. The landowner, they can come to council in 2 weeks to clarify what it is they intend or want. So I really don't think the deferral is actually necessary.
Clarity, it's one cycle.
Vote on the deferral.
The motion to defer the item for one meeting cycle is lost on a tie vote, 5-5. Those councillors voting in favor, Councillors Ventelberg, Hunt, Carpenter, Caputo, those councillors voting against, Samuel, McCurry, Sullivan, Sicoli, Mayor Davis, noting Councillor Martin was out of the room at the time of the vote.
Back to the main motion as amended. As a friendly vote, please.
The main motion is also lost on a tie 5-5. Those councillors voting in favor, Councillors Ventelberg, Samuel, McCurry, Sullivan, Mayor Davis, those councillors voting against, Councillors Hunt, Carpenter, Caputo, Sicoli, noting Councillor Martin was out of the room at the time of the vote.
All right. Councilor McCurry, can you please state your seconder and read your resolution for 8.2?
Chair, thank you very much. I believe my seconder is the mayor, or Kevin Davis, on this resolution. He can confirm that.
It got me in a lot of trouble tonight, so maybe I won't, but I'll second it.
Excuse me, I'll have to wipe the grin off my face for the mayor's support on the prior item, which I thank him very much for. So the resolution is titled the Brantford Hospital Working Group and reads as follows. I'll settle in because it's a long one. Whereas the Ministry of Finance estimates the city of Brantford will grow by approximately 38% over the next 25 years, making it one of the fastest growing communities in Ontario. And whereas it has become increasingly obvious that the biggest issue facing our communities is a dated hospital designed to service the needs of 1980s Brantford and struggling to service the current needs of a much larger population base. In a catchment area which includes the beautiful city of Brantford, the county of Brant, and 6 nations of the Grand River, and the New Credit, of course. Whereas there is a clearly demonstrable need for a new hospital facility to meet the needs of a growing and vibrant community, and whereas the province has stated a commitment to improving the patient experience and delivering higher quality healthcare, and whereas the province wishes to improve local connections between hospitals, primary care providers, interprofessional healthcare teams, public health, and home and community care to ensure a better patient experience and improved transitions between services. And whereas the province wishes to improve accountability to better ensure the people of Ontario have access to healthcare when they need it. And whereas the small and medium-sized hospitals located throughout Ontario provide vital core hospital services, including acute care inpatient, emergency diagnostic and surgical services. And whereas members of the communities in which Brantford Healthcare Community Services serves, including the city of Brantford, county of Brant, 6 Nations, and New Credit, are eager to provide input to advocate for the development of a new hospital. And whereas the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford considers the development of a new hospital facility to be a priority, and in December 2022 established an interest-bearing hospital redevelopment reserve fund, which has earned over 15 million to date. And whereas the City of Brantford will be transferring the lands formerly occupied by Fire Station Number 2 and a parking lot located at 311 St. Paul Ave to the Brant Community Healthcare System as part of the new hospital build. And whereas citizens have demonstrated an interest in enthusiastically supporting and participating in advocating for a new hospital. Now, therefore, be it resolved, A, that council approve the creation of a community-based working group to be comprised of city representatives, Mayor Davis, Councillor McCreary, and 2 additional councillors to be chosen tonight. And B, that the Brant Community Healthcare System be requested to provide 1 representative to the working group. And C, that the other catchment area communities be requested to provide representation as follows. Firstly, County of Brant, 2 representatives. 6 Nations Council, 1 representative. And New Credit, 1 representative. And that the new Hospital for Brantford Working Group begin the process of engaging the community, building the case for a new facility, lobbying various levels of government, organizing fundraising initiatives, and performing a community needs assessment with each of the communities affected by the proposed change. And E, lastly, that staff be directed to develop a new Hospital for Brantford free lawn sign campaign for citizens at a maximum cost of $10,000 to be funded from the Council Priorities Reserve. And Mr. Chair, I'll speak at length to this. First, let me say that there's no heritage component to this, and I hope that that will create a unanimous decision here tonight. I want to say that Mayor Davis and I have had discussions with the folks from the hospital, namely with Bonnie Cam, Paul Emerson, and I had a discussion with Dave Deagle. Paul and Dave are the chair of 2 separate organizations. One is the board and one is the redevelopment committee. And we have expressed desires that we each play a role in this. We, of course, aren't going to usurp the hospital's role. Our role we see as being further to what their goals are in terms of having the province move forward our hospital for earlier construction. Mayor Davis also had a discussion with the mayor of the county, and that's why we've included them so that we speak with one voice. The one voice is a theme that runs through this. Will be to some extent mirroring what the desires of the hospitals committee are with respect to how we are going to engage and what our messaging will be. So we'll all be on the same page, not working at cross purposes. Clearly defined roles. We intend to pursue respectful advocacy which the province will see as being the community's voice in our desire to have a new hospital, but speaking with a respectful tone and to not ruffle feathers at Queen's Park. I think that's most important. Mayor Davis is on the hospitals committee. Mayor Davis will be on this working committee as well, and he will be the liaison, and he will make sure that the two committees don't cross purposes and that we, in fact, row in the same direction, if I may use an analogy, since Councillor Samwell created that water analogy earlier in the evening. So I would hope that everybody would support this tonight. There's nothing in this that should be of concern to members of council. We will be working in lockstep with the hospital folks. We will speak with one voice. We will be providing their point of view that we can then engage with our community, with our citizens, and make sure that we develop kind of an advocacy that the province cannot say no to. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Samwell.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to commend Councillor McCrory and the mayor for bringing this forward today. I'm really pleased to support this. And if my councillor colleagues so be it, I would like to put my name forward to be on this committee. I feel very strongly the importance of the hospital, and I think I would be a good advocate on this committee. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Yeah, I find it it's curious, and I'm glad that that there's movement for it. You can see behind me, there's a sign there that says, we need a hospital now, get it done, Premier. My campaign has been out there since the beginning, the end of July. I know the media didn't report on it, but the media doesn't report on a lot of things that go on in our community, unfortunately. But we've had a campaign for some time. I saw fit to print 100 signs, and I have about 5 left. They're all out around the community. They're small, but they're mighty. And the public wants a new hospital, and they want it now. Now, we know that the province has approved, I think, the site. They've approved the design. What we need the province to do is step up and approve the funding. And we also know that other municipalities have launched similar campaigns. But what is also needed here is an ability for the citizens to log in somewhere, like an online petition where they can put a petition in to the Premier to say, we need a new hospital. Collaboration is one thing, but the province needs to step up and give us the hospital. We need a hospital, and we need it now. And we've needed it for a long time. So I know that the mayor brought this resolution forward and gave it to Councillor McCrory, as I understand it. That's great. Fine, we need to do this as a municipality collectively. But collectively, not so that we're not here to satisfy the province and the Premier and those folks that, to make them happy. And what we want is them to make us happy and provide the funding for a hospital and get our hospital done. We need a hospital in this community. We needed it a long time ago. We needed it when the current Harris government closed St. Joe's Hospital. We needed it then. We need it now. We're over 150,000 in this region, and we don't have a new hospital approved. The funding needs to be approved. It needs to be approved now. And since I've started doing this program back in July, I'd be happy to put my name forward as the second for the second seat if council so wishes. Thank you. Oh, one more thing I want to point out. There was a group called the Minden Group. And the Minden Group is a group in Minden where they closed the ER in Minden. And the group got together and they recorded. They decided to record all the funding for hospital networks all across the province by member of provincial parliament. And they found out that our hospital has been underfunded by 120% less funding than they did in 2022. And we've gone from a surplus to a $6+ million deficit. And the province of Ontario spends the lowest amount per resident in Canada on our healthcare. So we need to step up and do more and do much better. Thank you.
Mayor Davis.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, I'm going to support this. And first, I'd like to tell you that the hospital has established a committee. We had our first meeting last night, and it's called the Reimagine BCHS Committee. And on that committee are invited our leaders of the community. The purpose is to oversee, update, and seek input on progress of the planning, the construction, the communication, fundraising, and community impact concerns related to the development of the new hospital system. On that committee are obviously the hospital CEO. There are 2 or 3 members of the hospital board. There are some other hospital staff. There's representation from Six Nations, First Credit Mississaugas, also the County of Brant to the mayor. There's myself, Larry Brock, and Will Boma. There was a committee like this that was established prior to the pandemic to assist in moving the project forward. The committee fell into disuse when there was that period of time that there was no permanent executive director of the hospital. So it's now reinstituted. And also there's been some challenges with the concept for a new hospital. Originally it was, using the current hospital building, repurposing it. But what's occurred over the last year or two has made it very clear that that's really no longer feasible because of the age of those buildings and the condition of those buildings. So what is now being contemplated is a new hospital located across the street in the parking lot. The old buildings will be basically torn down and the D wing will be kept to be used for some purpose, but not as an acute care hospital. There will also be a reimagined, repurposed Willett Hospital, the Willett facility. And so the key that we were told is that right now, we are one of about 3 or 4 communities that are in the line for approval for funding construction of a new hospital facility. The competition is intense to get approval. And the next critical stage is the 2025 provincial budget. If we are in that budget, if a new facility for the Brant Community Healthcare Systems in that 2025 budget that comes out in March, early April, then we're well on the way to then doing the detailed design work and the letting out contracts and the construction of a hospital. So this committee is going to be doing some higher level advocacy, but I think there's a real need for what I would call grassroots lobbying, so that more citizens can get involved through a more extensive sign campaign that's focused on, get it in the 25 budget. That should be the theme. And that could be letter writing, email sending, a lot of different ways that other communities have done the same thing with a grassroots campaign, so that the provincial government sees that it's not just the community leaders that are supporting this, but there is a wide cross section of support in the community. Also, I should say, and the hospital has been making it clear, and they will through the course of the fall, provide more information as to the detailed nature of their plans. But it's important this committee take their cue from the hospital, what they're planning, follow behind that and support it. I'll tell you this, if we get into a debate about, no, there should be a hospital, the Garden Ave, the 403, and we need 3 hospitals in town, guess what? We'll go to the bottom of the line because the other communities are fully supportive, fully unified in the concept they're bringing forward. If the province detects there's a hint of division or discord in the community about the concept that the hospital is moving forward with, we'll be dead in the water once again. So it's time for this community to rally around the hospital. I believe this committee with the committed efforts, and I thank Councillor Carpenter for beginning some efforts earlier this summer. We really need to ramp that program up. I've been working with Councillor McCurry to provide some money for signs, which we can distribute through neighborhood associations, similar to what we did with some of the speed control signs. We can really up it, but we got to do it very quickly in the next 2 to 3 months to get in the 25 budget. And then once we're in that budget, it can continue in a role that'll support fundraising and also continue the pressure to make sure that the contracts are let, the design work is done as soon as possible. So very happy to support this. It can be a 2-pronged effort, working with the hospital and their planning organization and committee, and then this grassroots committee. But together, moving forward together on a unified basis.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I too would like to throw my name in the hat here as well, if my councillor colleagues see fit. I'd like to take the 10 years that I operated as an operations manager for Hamilton Health Sciences and St. Joe's Healthcare, come to assist this as we move forward. Thanks.
Councillor Sloss.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Chair. This is exciting, and I've had discussions with the mayor and Councillor McCurry about this. And I know data is important, but I think the visual is going to be huge. And you've got to put a sign on every lawn in Brantford. I don't know whether $10,000 will do it, but you've got to get those signs out there. I think, to me, that's imperative. That's something that the premier can't look the other way on. If that's on the front page of a newspaper, it's going to attract attention of the TV stations in Kitchener and in Hamilton, I'm sure, and it'll make the case. I think there'll certainly be a lot of political pressure by having a visual show of support by the entire community. I think that's important. I think the data part of it and the consultation part is also extremely important. But as the mayor said, we've got to jump quickly, because everything I've heard from the hospital folks that I've talked to is the 2025 budget is the one we have to get into. And to do that, we've got to move very quickly now. So I'm all wholeheartedly supporting this, and I too would put my name forward to be part of this. I think it's an important project, and I think it's for those that took the tour that we were on a few months ago of the hospital facilities. I'll tell you that the infrastructure in that hospital is on life support, and they've got to come in and the work has to get done, and the new hospital has to get built. So anything as an individual I can do and as a community that we can do, I think should be done to make sure that we are in that 2025 budget and move this along as fast as we can. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Coley.
Thank you, Chair Caputo. Love this, obviously, and I want to give a huge shout out to Councillor McCreary as well as Mayor Davis and all the staff that put this together. I hope that, I hope that the media covers this in a huge way every time we see these lawn signs, and it's a very official regional style campaign, which I love because it shows a really unified voice across all of our communities. And I know that, I really hope that we're keeping this to keep letting the high level lobbying and advocacy pieces remain at the high level. At that high level group with the Reimagine Committee, as Mayor Davis mentioned before. And I hope that we do keep this as more of a grassroots, campaign that draws attention to the need of the hospital and stays out of the nitty gritty, the little minutia of what we're trying to achieve here. And any one of us counselors would be lucky to be sitting on this. We have room for two. And we're all going to have our opportunity to help support the campaigns that come out of this committee. But I do want to take this opportunity to nominate one of my counselor colleagues, and that's Councillor Gino Caputo. I think he's shown to us a tremendous amount of support for the healthcare system, and his work on the Brant County Health Unit is going to lend to the conversation here nicely. So if you would so indulge me, I would love to put your name forward, Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, I accept.
Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. By the number of councillors that are volunteering for this, you can see this is an important issue for our community. And it's imperative, as has been mentioned many times, that we all sing from the same song sheet. We need to be working very closely with the hospital to make sure the messaging is consistent, that we're talking about the exact same project going forward, because it's that kind of cohesion and unity that will allow this to move forward and get the attention of the province. As the mayor said, if we start saying, well, no, it should be here, it should be there, it should be a greenfield site, it should be on the same site, then that sends a mixed message to the province, and we do end up at the bottom of the list again. And we can't afford that. We need this hospital. We've needed a new hospital for a long time. It's been mentioned that, when St. Joe's was closed, but we have to remember that before St. Joe's was closed, beds were closed in hospitals. So even though we had two hospitals, they weren't operating at capacity because the NDP government of the day closed a bunch of beds in hospitals, which led to the closing of hospitals to consolidate beds in one building. So it's important that we get this message to the province, because it's a provincial decision after all, but we need to have as much influence on that decision as we can. And I look forward to getting one of the lawn signs and putting it on my own lawn. It's something that we need the community to get behind. And if we find that there's a huge demand for the signs and we run out, then we might have to come back and allocate some more money to it. That would be a good problem to have because it'll show community support for this whole thing moving forward, and that's what we want to do. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yeah, I think we need solidarity for this project going forward. I believe everybody here at this council table is on the same page and wants the same thing. What I would rather not see is a competition for those spots. Because what I've seen right now is basically one representative from each ward is pretty much asked to be part on that committee. What that does is that gives one representative to work their ward, keep the rally going, to engage with the neighborhood associations, to get those signs out, to do their part, to all pull together, to keep each ward updated to the best of their ability with information. We know this as counselors that we are engaging with our constituents more than other people outside. So who would going to be the communicator above all to the rest of our things? So if there's an allowance for an amendment to add, basically it would be 2 council spots because there's 3 spots there now. And that be as one representative from each ward. I believe there'd only be 1 ward where they might have to make a decision on who should go for the position. Again, I think we all want the same thing here. I don't think we're going to get any, I think there'd be unity in making these choices because you're going to have every counselor saying the same thing. We need that one location. We need to be unified. It's the province that we need to bring into action. And this is the only way we're going to get there. And I think if we're going to do that, let's start by doing it here and bringing in reps from each ward.
Councillor Hunt.
Well, I'm going to start off by saying that I am probably the most frequent flyer at the Brantford General that sits around this table. But I can also bring 2 of my experiences. One sitting on the board of the Local Health Integration Network. And I will tell you that healthcare funding, our entire system is chronically underfunded. And so, yes, we really do need to push for a new hospital. When I was sitting on that board, 89 cents of every dollar of healthcare funding goes to hospitals in the province, and hospitals are chronically underfunded, even getting 89% of the healthcare funding. My other experience is when our hospital was under provincial supervision, I actually sat on the citizen committee that was there in place of the board of directors. That being said, though, I will tell you that my greatest probably asset, and I'm not lobbying to be on the committee, is the fact that I myself have been an admitted patient in the last 10 years, probably at least a dozen times, anywhere from 3 or 4 days to spending 2 weeks there during the pandemic. So I totally applaud what we've got here. My concern is that now we're going to say that we have 6 representatives from the city of Brantford. And I suppose my question would be to CAO Hutchings in terms of, have we asked the county, Six Nations and New Credit how many representatives they would like to see on the committee?
Mr. Mayor, do you want to answer that question?
Little unusual, but through you, Mr. Chair, I can answer that. So last night at the Reimagining Committee, I actually discussed this with Mayor Bailey. And I think their wish is there be proportionality. That yes, we are the largest municipality, but they would like the number of members that are kind of proportional. So if we put 5 or 6 on, then I suspect they may want to put 4 or 5 on, and or you get a very large, probably unwieldy committee. Whether you're on this committee or not, we're all committed to this community and getting a new hospital here. If you're on the committee, you'll help. You'll help. Because remember, this is really a lobbying advocacy committee, not a planning committee. And, whether we're on the committee or not, we're going to be out there, I'm sure every one of us out there talking to our ward residents and promoting the use of the signs and people sending emails. And whether you're on the committee or not, we're all going to work together to get this into the 2025 provincial budget. And probably the best qualification for this would be that some experience in advocacy. This is really like an election campaign, right? So having some experience in that certainly would be a major asset. I can see this committee evolving over time into something that's more focused on fundraising and helping the hospital with detailed design work. Right now, it's getting the pressure on the provincial government to get this in that budget.
Thank you. And so on that basis, I would recommend that we maintain what's in the resolution, which is to appoint 2 other members, not 1 member from each ward. I don't want it to look to our neighbors that it's a City of Brantford committee and we've given you a few seats. So I would certainly hope that we could come up with a decision that it is putting 2 names in the current vacant slots that it's in the current resolution.
Thank you. Before I go to second time speakers, I'm going to chime in on this myself. I think this is absolutely fantastic. Councilor McCreary, I'm certainly not going to question your integrity when it comes to whether you've told the truth here. This is a great motion. I think what's the anticipation that could come of this is tremendous. I'd be shocked if the entire community did not get themselves involved in this, not behind it, not put a sign out there. And as Councilor Sluss said, this would be a national news story. We're not just talking about something local. We've needed this for years. We've been applauded by the Premier in terms of so many things that we've been able to accomplish, from our due diligence with homes, with our abilities to attract manufacturing and businesses, all these different things. We've kind of been put up there in terms of what we've done outside of other cities. And to make this platform something that should be campaigned when we look at the next provincial campaign election, it has to have somebody take notice, and especially that being the Premier and the people in that area, that Brantford needs what we're doing here. And looking at Councillor Carpenter's little sign there about we need a new hospital, I applaud that. I mean, Councillor Carpenter's been talking about this forever, and I second all that. And I think this is an opportunity for us as a city to move forward and really show the province who and what we are. And I really can't wait for this to take place. So congratulations again, Councillor McCreary. I think this is great. Mayor Davis, excellent support. Now I will go to Mayor Davis for a second speaking. Alicia, he's off. Councillor McCreary.
Chair, thank you very much. It's not often that we come in here. Most of us have sort of an inkling of what we're going to do and how we're going to vote. And I've just experienced a rare turn of events. I fully embraced what Councillor Van Tilburg said, and I thought it was an excellent idea to proceed with 1 per ward. And then the mayor spoke, and the mayor convinced me otherwise. And I think, when we consider how we compromise in this room, there are 11 of us here representing citywide issues, 2 representing each ward. We will have 3 people on this committee, but we will have every member of this council active in their own ward with respect to communications and selling this idea to our supporters, to our constituents. And every single one of us will be active in terms of making this campaign work. The lucky or unlucky ones, as the case may turn out to be, who are appointed to this committee will be the working group, and the rest of us will be acting in support roles and making things happen. So I'm of a mind to continue in the vein that we're going with 4 of us on the committee and with 2 from the county and 1 from each of the 2 First Nations. I think it was said that we don't want to be big and unwieldy, and I hope we'll arrive at a unanimous consensus on this tonight.
Counselor Sluts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll withdraw my name and I'll support my ward mate, Councillor Caputo, to be on the committee, but I'll certainly work beside him as we go through this. But to try and get this thing done and just have the proper number on there, I'm quite prepared to not be listed as a member of the committee, but I'll certainly be working with the committee. So having said that, I'll be supporting my ward mate if there's a vote.
Thank you. So, Mr. Clerk, can you confirm the nominations?
Through the chair, the members of council who have been nominated are Councillor Samuel, Carpenter, Sullivan, Caputo, and Councillor Hunt.
Sorry, just to clarify, Councillor Hunt is not putting her name forward.
So I have Councillor Samuel, Carpenter, Sullivan, and Caputo.
So I can ask everyone to proceed with the vote.
Through the chair to members of council, we're going to be proceeding with the election of the two members of council. Each member of council will have the opportunity to vote for two members of council for the two seats on the motion. So the two members of council who were nominated and had the most number of votes were Councillor Samuel and Councillor Carpenter, with 7 and 6 votes respectively.
So now that we've actually got names to it, if anyone wants to speak to the motion again, if not, we'll take it to the vote. Councillor Carpenter.
Yeah, just speaking to, when I decided in early July that we needed to do something about a hospital and we needed a sign campaign, it was because another municipality had done that. And the municipality advocating for a hospital and going into the community and getting the community involved was how they ended up receiving a hospital funding. And so that's why I started the campaign, We Need a Hospital Now. And it's been really well received, actually. So the 100 signs that I first printed, I've got about 5 left. Everyone was quite happy to have them. Anybody that was contacted was happy to have them. And so I think this would be an excellent time to have this. We can fill the lawns full of signs that say, we need a hospital now, let's get it done. And I think we can get the premier and the province to come forward in the 2025 budget and fund this hospital. I'm happy to help out. Thank you.
Not seeing anything further, call the vote.
The vote on item 8.2 carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Those councillors voting in favor, Councillors Ventilbor, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Scully, and Mayor Davis.
So moving on to 8.3, Councillor McCreary, can you please state your seconder and read your resolution?
Absolutely, and thank you, Mr. Chair. The seconder is Councillor Martin. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas the corporation of the city of Brantford requires an owner or applicant to submit a plan of condominium application when a property owner wishes to convert rental apartments to condominium ownership. And whereas the owner made an application for a plan of condominium conversion on June 2024, And whereas an increase to planning fees took effect on May 1, 2024, resulting in an additional $12,390 being applied to the plan of condominium application fee. And whereas the applicant would have made the application prior to May 1, 2024, were it not for factors outside of their control. Now therefore be it resolved, the city council refund a total of $12,390, which represents the difference in the application fee in effect prior to May 1, 2024. And I would like to offer some clarity with respect to this application. It's a course of action that we've taken in past where we've offered relief to applicants, constituents, clients in the city of Brantford who have had to pay excess fees due to circumstances beyond their control. This is a complicating factor because of our recent and upcoming discussions with respect to condominium conversion. I would ask that members of this committee try to separate the two items in their minds with respect to supporting this item before us today. There'll be plenty of time later to have the discussion about the validity and justness and rightness of condominium conversions. What we have tonight really is just relief for a community partner who is in the process of making an application to the city of Brantford. It's fair to offer this refund, regardless what your opinion may be about the eventual outcome of any application that we receive. Thank you.
Not seeing anyone in the queue. We call the vote.
The motion on item 8.3 is lost on a recorded vote of 4-7. Those councillors voting in favor: Councillors McQuarrie, Martin Celeste, Sullivan. Those councillors voting against: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, Caputo, Sicoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay. There are no notice of motions on tonight's agenda. Please note that the notice of motion deadline for council agenda is Thursday, September 19th at 9 a.m. The meeting is now adjourned.